Hey, everybody, welcome to the Truth Applied podcast. I am Rebekah, your host. I have a couple announcements to make right off the bat. If you are listening to this on a regular streaming platform, surprise, surprise, I'm also doing video podcasts now. So I'm 130, I think, some odd episodes into this podcast, and they've always only been audio. So most of you are probably listening on, Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever, but this is actually being recorded and I'm going to put it on YouTube, and I will be starting to do a video version of the podcast also. So that's really exciting. Second quick announcement right off the bat is that I'm going to be doing themes. I'm going to try this out for at least this whole summer. So it is June 2024 right now, and we are going to be diving into the theme of dealing with difficult people. Okay. Yes, for the whole month of June. So there will be 4 episodes this month, and it's all going to be about this topic. Okay. It's just going to allow us to dive a little deeper. It's going to allow us to, I don't really like taking in so much information all the time that nothing really sticks. And it's like all this random different stuff. And even my show having a different topic every single week kind of felt like it was spreading myself a little thin, but also I felt like I was just throwing so much information at you guys. And I know as a coach, as a person, that true change, it is slow and it takes time and it takes repeating things. And so I'm excited that we have a video episode. I'm excited that we're doing a theme for the whole month. And third new announcement, I am also going to be creating what I'm calling Going Deeper toolkits. So if you just want to listen to these episodes like you've been doing, if you're one of my, consistent listeners, take the information in and enjoy that information and do what you want with that information, fabulous. But I know that some of you guys have the desire to really reflect and not just let the aha moments pass you by, not just let those, we all have them. We all have the moments when we're listening to a great podcast that we're like, I have to pause it. I have to write that down. I need to re-listen to that. Ooh, I should really go back to that one. And we never really do. We don't purposefully revisit the thing that actually struck a chord with us or that made sense to us. So I've created the toolkits just for those of you out there who, if we're on a monthly theme that you love, you can download the toolkit, super inexpensive. It's going to be right around $15. And the toolkit will give you prayer prompts and journal prompts and audio or transcripts of each episode. So you can highlight direct quotes or just read them or reread them. It's also going to give you some quizzes and some extra material. And in essence, I really want to empower you guys to not just let good info go in one ear and out the other. And also, if you don't need, full-time coaching or full-time counseling, but you're super resonating with that month's topic, because this isn't a membership or anything like that. It's just each month with the theme, there'll be a toolkit available. And the toolkit is for the whole month. And it's really inexpensive. So if you want that, please make sure you're checking the show notes or the notes below the video and grab that too. Okay. So 3 amazing new things that I'm just really excited about. So here we are again. Big hello to those of you who have been with me kind of from the beginning. Let's dive in, Let's dive into our topic of dealing with difficult people. So we all know them. We all interact with them. Sometimes they're at work, a boss, a coworker. Sometimes they are extended family or neighbors, but sometimes they're close family. Just from being alive and also from coaching, I know, I have a lot of people that come to me and say, my difficult person is my husband or my mother-in-law or my dad or my grown child. And so this is a really important topic because we want to be Christ-like to the people in our lives, but we also don't want to let people take advantage of us. We want to be good witnesses, but we want to have boundaries. We want to love people well and not just shut people out, but we don't want to be used, drained. We don't want to enable bad behavior. I mean, these are really tricky lines. And particularly for Christian women, there's often a feeling of, I just have to be faithful, loving, patient. I just have to be nice, which can really lead to, just a lot of resentment or kind of harm against you, depending on the person or the situation. It can really lead to affecting your own self-esteem, your own stress, your own anxiety. Again, even if this is somebody that's really close to you, like it could be your mom, it could be just somebody that you love and want to interact with and maybe have to interact with. It's just a reality, guys. I mean, difficult people are a reality. And so I want to get just really practical and really serious with you guys so that we can experience some freedom in this area, and not just worldly wisdom, but biblical wisdom. So in episode 2 or 3 this month, I'm not sure which one yet, there will be a lot of what does the Bible say about this? How did Jesus interact with difficult people? And he did often. What are we really called to with these difficult individuals? And, how can we be Christ to them? And when are we allowed to really withdraw or put up a boundary or say no? So we're going to get to that. But today I want to just help you guys by defining some difficult people, giving you a few real life scenarios. And also we're going to go over some insights into why people act this way. Okay. Because by being able to name like, oh, this person does that, and that's what's so draining for me, and maybe this is why that person does that, is the first step. Okay. Again, in the rest of this series, we're going to talk about we're going to talk about why you're easily triggered by these people. And perhaps are you adding anything to the dynamic that's making it difficult? Or is there just something inside of you that you can change or do differently so that that person can be all difficult, twirly, upset, hard to please, negative, and it just doesn't, penetrate your energy or your heart or your soul like it does right now? I want to definitely get to the point this month where I'm teaching you guys strategies and truths that will help protect yourself and actually take it one step further to what can you do to create some positive connections with this person. So yeah, it's a journey. We're going to be going through a journey these next 4 episodes. But we're starting today with just understanding these difficult people. So I'm going to give you guys types of difficult people. This is not all of the ones in the world, but it is some. Number 1, we have the complainer. How many of you guys know a complainer? This person never has anything real positive to say. They're always focusing on the negative. They think the whole world is going to hell in a handbasket, and you can't talk with them for more than 1 or 2 minutes before their angry, complaining, upset nature comes out. And it's so difficult to be around, because if you're happy or you're positive or you've done the work that day to kind of trust the Lord or center your own heart or center your own mind, and then this person pulls you down, it's incredibly difficult to want to be around them. Okay? The next type of difficult person is the aggressor. An aggressor is somebody who usually kind of forces their way. They might do it with even levity or humor, or they might do it with these big, bold, kind of dramatic or sarcastic statements. But at the end of the day, this person usually forces their way. They don't like to give in. They don't like to listen to other people. And they're really all about kind of having that power and that control. And there's definitely a scale of how aggressive they are. I mean, some people are all the way like over here abusive, not most, but some of the people that we're dealing with, though, I would say don't go over into the abusive scale. They've learned to kind of dominate, and they've learned to get their way. And even though they love you, and even though some of these people love the Lord, they can't really help themselves from throwing their opinions, ideas, weight around and getting their way. And those people are really difficult to be around. The third type of difficult person is the passive aggressive person. So this is the person who has an issue, they have a problem, but instead of saying it directly and dealing with things directly, they create tension, they create unease. They have an attitude and they say, no, nothing's wrong. They are quiet and they say nothing's wrong. So in a indirect way, in a passive way, they are aggressive with you. And these people are also very difficult to be around. The fourth type of difficult person that I've identified, or that I think we often have to interact with, are know-it-alls. So you can just be hanging out with your friend, for example, and talk about, I don't know, the newest plant you planted, and they will have an opinion about the fact that that plant will not live in your state. No, it won't. And you'll be like, okay. Okay. So you move on to the next topic and you say, man, I found this really awesome trip that me and my family want to take. And they'll have some quick opinion about which airline is best. And oh, bummer, you have to fly that airline because actually this airline is better. And actually this trip or this location is better. And it's deflating. And they might be, again, really nice. They might think you guys are best friends. They might think they're just giving you good information. They might think they're helping you. But what it feels like to you is rejection, kind of, draining, unsolicited advice. Do you think I'm stupid? It just doesn't feel good. It's difficult to interact with people like that. And then we've got the victim. All right. So the fifth type of common difficult person is somebody who plays the victim. This person will complain and complain and complain. They won't take suggestions. They won't change. They won't take responsibility for their behavior. And they just kind of expect people to listen over and over and over and over and validate how they're feeling or what happened to them over and over and over and over. It's so draining. So draining. Now, I didn't even put in this list the manipulator. All of these things are manipulative in nature. Complainer, aggressor, passive aggressive, know-it-all, victim. All of these tactics are pretty manipulative, even though people who are doing it don't really know. But they're often manipulating people to get their needs met. And frankly, if we're just going to go right to the heart of it, these are needs that should be being met in the Lord. In a healthy, whole person who's rooted in their identity in Christ, trusting the Lord to be in control, can interact with another human being and not be a drain on them, not be difficult on them, not have expectations and needs that are even below their conscious ability to access. Let's say you have a difficult mother-in-law and she is a know-it-all and she is manipulative and she is passive-aggressive. It's probably, unless she starts to do the work, below even her conscious ability, her consciousness. She hasn't really even accessed that she's doing all those things because she feels insecure, or that she's doing all those things because she's lost her sense of meaning and purpose when all of her kids moved out of the house. And, there's always something going on inside of these difficult people that are creating their difficult behaviors. And many of them don't even know what's going on that's causing it. So I want to hit on that really quick. And then we'll wrap up this first episode. Okay. And we'll get to some more good deep stuff next week. It does help to know why people act this way. It gives us grace, I think, and compassion. And most importantly, what it does teaches us that these people's behavior is not about us, it's about them. Okay? So most times when I'm coaching somebody and they feel super triggered by that person at work, or even by, let's say, their husband, who's not a truly abusive person, but a difficult person, but they feel so triggered by it that they kind of then also react in a difficult person way. Like they then react in a way that causes things to explode. Okay. So why are you so triggered by this person's difficult behavior? Usually because we think it's about us. We're taking it personally. And I think the very first thing that I want you guys to think about this month and start to really contemplate when you're interacting with that difficult person in your life, is that behavior really about you? Even if they're trying to make you feel like it's about you, or is it about them? And one of these things that I'm about to list, I'm about to give you guys the whole list of a variety of reasons, really, that are often rooted in mindset or like emotional, environmental factors, trauma, or just sin. Okay? Just sin that make difficult people act the way they act. But hear me and hear me now. Every adult is responsible for their own actions. Every Christian is responsible for being kind and patient and loving and gentle and letting no harsh words come out of our mouth. Which means even if there's a person triggering them, let's say even if you did something that was slightly disrespectful to your husband or slightly, disrespectful to your mother-in-law, a whole healthy, healed person will be able to react to you in a way that is mature and kind. So, if any of the difficult people in your life are making you feel like you're the reason that they're difficult, it's your fault that I act this way. It's your fault that I'm flying off the handle. It's your fault. They're wrong. Okay? I just want you to know right off the bat that they're wrong. When you realize that people's behavior is about them and not about you, it radically changes things. So here are some of the reasons that difficult people act the way they act. Number one is personal insecurities. I think a lot of us know this, but low self-esteem, fear of rejection and failure can cause people to overreact greatly. So people with low self-esteem may act out defensively to protect themselves from perceived threats or criticism. If somebody really walks around all day, every day, not feeling like they're enough as they are, really doubting themselves for whatever reason, they are going to be very, very sensitive. And they will perceive things that you say and do, like, oh, I can't hang out with you today, as rejection. Or, hey, maybe you should try this next time, as criticism or a threat. And they'll overreact. And you'll be like, I'm literally just trying to talk to you. I'm literally just trying to connect with you or communicate with you. And then they come at you in a way that you're like, whoa, I don't know. Why are you... Well, because they're perceiving things through their filter of their low self-esteem or their fear of rejection or failure. And therefore, it's not what you're saying or doing. Okay, it's their perception and their filter. And that's what is making them a difficult person. The next thing that can cause people to be really, really difficult is just stress and anxiety. Okay, so some of the people in our lives are difficult all the time because they were, for various reasons, they're a difficult person all the time. It never really changes. There's other people in our life, though, who are pretty pleasant and, like normal human most of the time. And yet, if they are very overwhelmed or very stressed or very anxious, all of us, any of us have the ability to overreact, to be unkind sometimes. All of us within us will do self-protective things. High levels of stress, chronic stress, can lead to irritability and aggression as people really struggle to cope with overwhelming pressures or feelings. Okay? So we just have to be aware of that. Like, if there's people in your life who aren't normally difficult, but they're being difficult, don't overreact to them. maybe just harness that grace and compassion. And you sound stressed. Is this situation overwhelming to you? Wow, that seems like a lot. Maybe you're overwhelmed. That type of thing. Another thing that makes people difficult people is past trauma. So trauma can significantly impact behavior. Oftentimes this is the home people are raised in. Could be adult trauma, but a lot of times it's childhood trauma of abuse or neglect or anything that makes a human feel like they have to protect themselves. I have to be hypervigilant. I have to be in control. Or I have to withdraw. That's how I protect myself. Or I have to be aggressive. But yeah, there's a lot of things that can create just a hardwired operating system in a person that they really truly believe for survival reasons they have to protect themselves. Again, they can grow and learn past that, but not with really specific and concerted effort. They will just operate that way their whole life. And that's trauma, past trauma. Another thing that makes people difficult people is just that it's a learned behavior. Okay, so if you're raised in a home where there was a lot of power and control or manipulation or a lot of perfectionism or people pleasing, kids are going to model what they're seeing until they put in the work, or until, obviously God comes in and convicts or makes you a new creature. But if somebody grew up in let's say a really critical environment, or an environment that avoided conflict, or an environment that people just yelled and screamed all the time, that's what they're going to do until they learn a different way. Another thing that makes people difficult people is poor communication, meaning never learning how to communicate well. So poor communication skills are often not having a good vocabulary, not knowing how to express yourself well, then feeling misunderstood, then feeling or misinterpreting what other people are saying. Getting a real message across of this is what I'm actually trying to say to you, and what I'm trying to say is what you actually perceived, is really difficult. There's a lot of things in the way of that happening. And unless people put in really, intentional work to improve their communication skills, which means the words coming out of your mouth, your nonverbal skills, your listening skills, then probably there will be conflict, and that person might remain a difficult person their whole life because they're frustrated that people don't understand them, or they're frustrated that people are talking to them like that. And it's like, all you got to do is learn some communication skills, okay? But they don't know that. Another thing that can make somebody a difficult person is a desire for control or competition. These are like power dynamics. Some individuals exhibit difficult behaviors as a way to exert control over others and situations. This often stems from a fear of losing power or authority, which, as Christians, we know we don't really have the power and authority, and we also know that we don't have to fear losing power and authority, but some people really do. Some people feel very, very, very threatened by the idea of losing power or authority, because they will be taken advantage of if they do. They'll be walked all over if they do. That's how it feels to them. Another thing that can make somebody a difficult person is unmet needs. So an environment or unmet emotional needs, such as just a desire for recognition or love or validation, can lead to behaviors that seek attention or affirmation. Now, a little bit of attention and affirmation seeking is normal and good, and we all want the people around us to see what we're doing and, pat us on the back occasionally, and we should do that for each other. We should edify each other. We should encourage each other. We should lift each other up. But sometimes this constant need for compliments, so people will berate themselves in order to pull a compliment out of you, and it's so exhausting when people do that. Maybe they'll over apologize. Maybe they'll ask you 15 times if the thing they did was good enough. Okay, this person is seeking something that you ultimately can't give to them. And that's why it feels so draining, because a sense of like the deepest emotional needs we have as human beings are only met in the Lord. I see you. I'm proud of you. You're enough. At the heart level, we have to be getting from God And when people aren't getting it from God, their relationship with God through Jesus, they will put that often onto humans, and it's so draining to the humans in their life. Okay, 2 more here. Lack of self-awareness. Lack of self-awareness is a reason that somebody can be a difficult person. A lot of people aren't aware of how their behaviors affect other people, and they may continue to do some of these things if somebody doesn't call it out in them, or they don't have any self-reflection. So that's why it's important for us sometimes, with people who can hear it, to actually call this stuff out in people, to actually point out how these things make us feel or what they're doing, because sometimes people just don't even know. And we have to kind of give them that benefit of the doubt. Okay. The final one here is the spiritual reality, y'all, the biblical truth that a lot of times people are difficult people because we have a sinful nature. We have pride, right? So, the Bible is very clear that we have a fallen nature and that all humans really do desire to be in control. We desire to be better than other people. We desire to be served and not to serve. Now, our relationship with Jesus and sanctification over time changes these things inside of us, but we don't know what process people are at, and we don't know if they even have a real relationship with the Lord. And so sometimes it's not all this other stuff. I mean, listen, I love a good coaching session and counseling session where we think that we can fix all these things about ourselves, like, or you might think my person needs to go to counseling, something like that. Do not forget, let us not forget that first of all, we all need the Lord the most. Okay. We all need the Lord the most. And that in a lot of these cases, we all need the Lord the most. And in a lot of these cases, people are actually just dealing with their sinful nature, their nature that wants to be their own little God, really, until we acknowledge and admit that God is God and we are not. And then there's also spiritual warfare. I mean, a biblical truth that we read about, that we often don't talk about, is the fact that people might be being a difficult person because they really are dealing with temptation or spiritual battles, or they're going through a difficult refiner's fire, and they're something happening on a spiritual level that they're just battling, or that's hard for them, or that they're suffering through. So, understanding these things, first of all, like I said, being able to name some of the behavior of that difficult person in your life, and then understanding maybe why they're acting the way they're acting, can really help us have more compassion. It can help us have more patience. And it helps us realize that their issues stem from deeper issues, and we don't have to take it personal. Okay. Now, in the toolkit this month, y'all, I actually have a quiz. Are you a difficult person? So to some degree, on certain days and in certain moments, we all can be kind of difficult. I mean, none of us act like perfectly confident, perfectly peaceful, perfect humility all the time. But if you have listened to some of this today, and hopefully it's helped you just be like, oh my gosh, that is what my boss does. Or, wow, I need to have more compassion on my husband because he's really stressed at work right now. I hope that it's just given you insight. I hope it's given you words. I hope it's given you insight. I hope it's harnessed some compassion and grace and humility in you. But if you, as you listen to me talk about difficult people and describe difficult people, there is a chance that you saw some of yourself in this. Okay. There's a chance that there is a little part of you that goes, oh my gosh, I do that. Another reason to grab that toolkit so that you can take that little quiz. It's a really helpful quiz. And it will kind of tell you if you're like a really difficult person or you're a sometimes difficult person. And it really defines some of these behaviors. So I would highly encourage you, if you're at all interested in that, to grab that. Okay. There you go, y'all. Episode 1 of How to Deal with Difficult People. Next week, we will get into probably. Well, over the next 2 weeks, we're going to get into how did Jesus deal with difficult people? What can we learn from that? What are some new and different and really creative, empowering, protective, but also loving strategies for some of these people? And yeah, we're just going to go from there. Okay? Alrighty. I'll see you guys next week. Don't forget to send me an email or put comments. And don't forget to grab that toolkit if you're interested in it. And let me just leave with this encouragement to you guys that we all do have those difficult people in our life. It doesn't mean that they're terrible people. It doesn't mean that they're abusive people. Some are. And in fact, I have that in the toolkit as well, knowing the difference between just a difficult person and what's actually an abusive person, because that's not what I'm talking about this month. I'm not talking about dealing with abusive people. We shouldn't deal with them. We don't have to deal with them, the Bible says. But if you don't know the difference, if you think maybe this person is actually abusive and you want to grab that toolkit, I'm not going to do a whole episode on that. But I did give you some very specific things that help distinguish between what is one and what is the other. So anyway, we all have these difficult people in our lives, and I just really wanted to acknowledge that and give you guys space to grow in this area, give you some truth and some tools, have some conversation this month that allows us to ultimately still love these people well and not let them negatively affect us. Okay? All right. Have a great week, guys. See you next time.